Hi there, I'm Dr. Julie Mazzi, former naturopathic doctor of 13 years. I've just recently transitioned into holistic health coaching. Today I'm going to be presenting on how to optimize mental and physical energy using natural medicine. Thank you for taking the time to view this. So here are 18 ways to optimize your mental and physical energy. Number one, you really want to start the day with protein. Anytime you've been fasting, like overnight, or if it's been a while since you have eaten a meal, you always want to break your fast with protein. First thing in the morning after fasting, the body will turn as much of whatever you ingest into sugar as possible, and you can mitigate that by choosing protein, which basically sets the foundation for energy and stamina, mental clarity for the day. Secondly, drink more water. I can't emphasize enough how much hydration is important. Ideal water intake is half your body weight in ounces of water daily, as long as you have healthy kidneys. And ideally, you're drinking water away from mealtime and eating, because drinking water during that time can kind of dilute all of the digestive juices so that you're not absorbing nutrients as well as you could from your food. Another important aspect is salt balance. And of course, for people with high blood pressure, we want to make sure that there is, some restrictions on salt intake. But salt cravings are actually often a sign of adrenal fatigue. And people that tend to eat kind of a whole foods diet must intentionally salt their food in order to get enough salt. So consider, increasing salt intake to improve energy and mental acuity. Third, when you notice your energy pattern throughout the day, if there is a certain time of day where energy is lower, that's a great time to lay flat if you can. 10 minutes or less, however much time you have. Laying flat actually allows the blood to go to where the adrenals are located. Another great position for even more of a refresh is legs up the wall pose. In yoga, that's called Viparita Karini. You'll lay flat on your back and then swing your legs up the wall so that you're making a 90-degree angle. And that allows the blood to flow from your feet directly down to the adrenals again, and can be very rejuvenating and refreshing. Number 5 is limit sugars. When craving sugar, ideally choose protein instead. That will give you more sustained energy, both mentally and physically. If you choose to eat something sugary, combine it with a protein, because that will kind of mitigate a dramatic sugar spike. For instance, nuts or seeds with fruit, nut butter with fruit. The one caveat is to avoid eating fruit and meat together, as this combination causes overgrowth of unfavorable flora in the gut that can become pathogenic. Number 6 is eliminate food intolerances. So there's a big difference between an allergy and an intolerance. A food that causes a food allergy reaction will cause some degree of anaphylactic reaction, hives, respiratory distress, tongue swelling. Those are foods that most adults know about by adulthood in their lives. What a food intolerance is also known as a food sensitivity. This is a type of reaction where the body creates inflammation in response to the food. So foods that cause inflammation can be tested through a food intolerance test, and we can find out exactly which foods are causing inflammation and to what degree, mild, moderate, severe, or no reaction at all. Sometimes people actually crave the foods that they have intolerances to, because when they initially eat the food, this ring of lymph nodes around the esophagus and trachea kind of snap into action, and the body can catch a little bit of a buzz from that. We may actually mistakenly associate that buzz with feeling good from eating the food, when in the long run, it actually creates inflammation that slows us down. Inflammation is kind of at the root of all symptoms and disease processes, including fatigue, brain fog, just to name a few. So getting clear on what your food intolerances are can really make a huge difference, and then eliminating or at least limiting them in the diet. Eating lots of healthy fats is number 7. And, there was a big misunderstanding back in the 80s that fat is bad for you and fat makes you fat, when really we've discovered that sugars and carbs are really the culprit of weight gain. So there are, 4 families of really healthy fats. One is organic butter or ghee. In Ayurvedic medicine, ghee, that's Ghee, is kind of a cure-all for everything. Ghee is clarified butter, so it doesn't contain lactose, casein, or whey, which are usually the 3 aspects in dairy that people are reacting to. Of course, vegetarians and vegans probably will avoid butter or ghee. The second family is fish oil, or the vegetarian version would be algae oil. These are ideal forms of omega-3 fatty acids, and they have the ideal ratios to dramatically decrease inflammation for us. When we're getting these really healthy fats in our diets, the body then utilizes fat for energy, which actually helps with weight loss or, weight regulation. And fish oils or algae oils are huge. There's another family of fats that are known as monounsaturated fats. Now, these are the oils of almond, avocado, coconut, and olive. Any of the nut or seed oils are really not to be used in cooking. They all have low temperatures at which they become trans fat. So if you're using nut or seed oils, just make sure that you're doing it in the raw form. The other family of oils or fats is the alpha linoleic acids. Those are the oils associated with chia, flax, hemp, pumpkin, and walnut oils. Because all of these are seed or nut oils, these are only to be used raw. So ideally getting some form of each of those 4 families: organic butter or ghee, fish oil or algae oil, almond oil, avocado, coconut, or olive oils, and then chia, flax, hemp, pumpkin, walnut. The 8th step is limiting caffeine. Although caffeine has beneficial effects on the brain, it does deplete the adrenals. Large amounts of caffeine daily or chronic overuse can drain the adrenals to exhaustion. So less caffeine, more water. Step 9 is sleep more. Aim for 9 to 11 hours of sleep per night. There is a whole discipline called sleep hygiene, which has nothing to do with the cleanliness of sleep. It just has more to do with setting up the ideal conditions for sleep. These things include avoiding light exposure, so blackout curtains, blocking all of the electronic lights that may occur in your bedroom, and avoiding screen time. And digital lights allow for melatonin release in the brain. If you do suffer from insomnia, it's advised to avoid screen time at least an hour before bedtime so that the brain can produce melatonin. Using little night lights in the bathroom and things can also help, because having that major exposure to light basically cancels melatonin, and melatonin is the sleep hormone. If you're not making enough melatonin, you won't have restful sleep. Each hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours of sleep after midnight. So give yourself some time to wind down and ideally try to get to sleep before midnight. Sleep is kind of like a bank account. If you keep overdrafting, you eventually have to pay it back. Number 10, limit alcohol. Like sugar, alcohol causes mental and physical fatigue. And as a toxin, alcohol requires energy from the body to detoxify. Because alcohol can also disrupt sleep, that's another trigger for anger, irritability, and can cause a vicious cycle of drowsiness. Number 11, exercise daily. Get some form of movement daily. I recommend doing what you love, however you enjoy moving your body, whether that's yoga or dancing or going for walks. Ideally, some form of movement daily is really going to help recharge your batteries. Stretching and doing yoga increases circulation and lymphatic flow. It reduces muscle fatigue and weakness. And with deep breathing, it allows for more oxygenation into the body, especially into those areas that are tight. This can improve parasympathetic tone and reduce stress, improving stress resilience overall. Number 13 is dry skin brushing. This helps to move lymphatic fluid, which easily becomes stagnant because the lymphatic vessels do not have valves. So they don't have any forward or backward flow. And dry skin brushing is one of the ways to kind of move that around, and it improves immunity as well. Now, as far as vitamins and minerals, specifically for the adrenals, methylated B complex is important. Now, in terms of methylation, there are a lot of people that don't methylate, and what that means is they don't activate the B vitamins into their most usable forms very well. So there are 4 B vitamins implicated in methylation. One is B2, and the methylated form is called riboflavin 5-phosphate, sometimes abbreviated R5P. B6, which is pyridoxal 5-phosphate, sometimes abbreviated P5P. The B12 is the methylcobalamin form. Every form of B12 ends with the suffix of cobalamin, so you want to make sure you're taking the methylcobalamin form. And then folate, which used to be known as B9. The methylated form is called methyl tetrahydrofolate, sometimes abbreviated MTHF. Do your best to avoid supplements that contain folic acid. Another vitamin is vitamin C, 2,000 milligrams daily for adrenals, mood, and brain health. And then zinc, 30 milligrams daily for focus. And finally, magnesium, which is best taken at night because it does have very relaxing effects. 400 milligrams nightly or more for adrenals, sleep support, mood, and nervous system health. On the handout that I've given the link for, there are a list of herbal medicines that can also really help with energy, mentally and physically. There is a class of herbs known as adaptogens, and I'm just going to list a few of them: ashwagandha, astragalus, cordyceps, eleutherococcus, ginseng, holy basil, licorice, maca, rhodiola, and schizandra. Those are all adaptogenic herbs, which means they help promote energy and stress resilience. There's another class of herbs known as nootropic herbs, and these improve memory. There are a multitude of neurotropics, but here is a list that I recommend often: bacopa, ginkgo, gotu kola, green tea, huperzia, lion's mane, rosemary, and vincopatine from periwinkle. Another class of herbs is known as anti-inflammatories, and these reduce inflammation, which causes sluggishness. And again, inflammation is at the root of all symptoms and disease processes. So anything that we can do to reduce inflammation improves health overall. Here are some of the ones that I recommend often: boswellia, which is also known as frankincense, cat's claw, cayenne, ginger, turmeric, and white willow bark. There are amino acids that promote energy. These are acetyl L-carnitine, choline, creatine, glycine, L-threonine in the evening, taurine in the AM, tryptophan, better taken in the PM, and tyrosine, better taken in the AM. Other considerations when it comes to chronic fatigue and or brain fog, these are areas that you can explore if these other recommendations that I'm making are not enough. We want to look into thyroid health, iron deficiency anemia, vitamin D, like dog status, dehydration, leaky gut, chronic mononucleosis or Epstein-Barr virus, diabetes or prediabetes, toxic load, heart health, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, or other types of chronic infections. These may be the underlying reason why someone is experiencing chronic fatigue, and it's great to explore and make sure that those are not, the avenue that we need to pursue. Now, I don't have any relationship to any of these formulas that I often recommend. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but there are forms of adrenal support that I often recommend. Adrenal Assist by Vitanica, Adrenal Support by Vital Nutrients, Adrenal Health by Gaia, or Stress Response by Gaia. Those are all great adrenal support formulas to be taken in the morning. Brain support formulas that I often recommend are Mind Blend by Vitanica, Mental Alertness by Gaia, True Focus by Now, and Brain by Host Defense. I also listed on the handout some mood support formulas that I like: Bright Side by Solaray, Cognitive Aminos by Pure, Mood Tonic by Vitanica, and Neuro Mood Pure Packs by Pure Encapsulations. Finally, I recommend often sleep support. And the sleep support supplements that I often recommend include Cortisol Manager by Integrative Therapeutics, Insomnitol by Designs for Health, Sleep Benefits by Da Vinci, and Sleep Blend by Vitanica. So, that's all I have today for our presentation on how to optimize mental and physical energy. If you're interested in learning more, you can always feel free to reach out to me. My website is glownaturalhealth.org, and I'm happy to connect. Thank you so much for taking the time to view this presentation. Blessings to you all and happy holidays.